Okay, mark that one down as Chark. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait at me.
And then Robert Woods out of nowhere.
Hey everyone, I am Justin, and that is Kyle, and we are the Fantasy Football Upside. Hey, we want to thank you. Thanks a lot for dropping by our little Fantasy Football podcast. And you know what? We're going to give you some info here. Today, we're continuing our pick or pass fantasy draft series. Kyle and I have loved doing this so far. We're really liking this, and we hope you do too. We're pitting players with similar draft prices against one another to find out who we like and who we're going to pick. So we're going to finish up with wide receivers today. And what do you think about this, Kyle?
All right. Yeah, we're going to finish the wide receivers today. We started wide receivers yesterday as well as running backs. We got them done on the first 2 days of the series here. We'll have links and all of that up in the corner here or down in the description. Check all that out. And then we'll set all this up as a playlist starting next week so you can run through all 5 of the episodes for the whole series. You know what? Tomorrow we're going to hit a couple of the QBs and a couple of tight ends. I think we're doing 4 tight ends, 2 matchups, and 3 matchups of QBs. So it'll be a single episode, just the same as the other ones have been, 5 matchups, and we'll go from there. All right. So we're going to handle this just like we would a normal draft day. Yeah. We're going to throw 90 seconds on the clock. You got 90 seconds to make a pick between these 2 guys because they're available to you in your draft. All right, let's dive head first into the shallow end, Justin, as you love that I say. All right, number 1, we've got OBJ and DJ Moore. Who you got for me, Justin? 90 seconds on the clock. Go.
Man, this was a tough one. We quickly reviewed these right before we were going, or at least in my head, I was looking at this and I was like, man, this is really tough because DJ Moore is like the sexy pick right now. I mean, people are loving some DJ Moore, and I get it. I mean, he has shown that he is talented, and yet he still wasn't like a top-tier wide receiver last year, and yet he's being drafted as a top-tier wide receiver this year. Mm-hmm. So, and there's still a lot of uncertainty with that offense, with that team. I mean, Matt Rule is a brand new coach in the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater's a brand new quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, so you don't really know what you're getting out of that offense right now. But yeah, he's number 2 receiving option in that offense, in my opinion, because Christian McCaffrey's still number 1 receiving option in that offense. Yeah. But let's move over to OBJ. Yes, he really did not have a great season his first season with the Cleveland Browns. Yes, he had a sports hernia that he played through for most of the season. And I think that's why his numbers were down. I think that's going to change this year. This guy is too supremely talented. He's a top 12 pick for a reason in the real draft. And I just think he's just too dang talented. He is the number 1 option in that offense, especially in receiving. And I think they're just going to force feed him the ball because he is that dang good. And that's why I'm actually going OBJ, which I am really curious to see what you think on this one. A lot of DJ Moore truthers out there, Kyle.
Yeah.
A lot of DJ Moore truthers out there. What do you got on those 2? 90 seconds?
Yep, 90 seconds on the clock. All right. I'm one of the truthers. I believe in DJ Moore this year. I do. And I don't believe in OBJ as much. I'm not a huge fan. I do have him slated as doing really well. But I think that DJ Moore has more upside. My concerns with OBJ are that there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. DJ Moore is competing with one guy, basically. And that's just Christian McCaffrey, whereas OBJ is competing with Jarvis, Landry, Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. There's just too many people that you have to deal with. And Jarvis Landry is a reception machine. He has been every year that he's been in the league. He's a receptionist machine. And I think that while OBJ has phenomenal talent and great games, I'm just concerned that maybe we have seen peak out of him, right? Whereas I think DJ Moore still has a lot more value and a lot more to prove, a lot more to show. And I think that eventually he's going to start sliding down the board. So as draft season starts to come around, I think that this matchup is not going to be a valid matchup for the purposes of what we're doing, right? Because I think that there will be some more spread between the two. Right now, they're between 11 and 14, 9 and 14, roughly. And I think that DJ Moore will slide down the board and be an even better value. So that's where I'm going.
Gotcha. Now you say DJ Moore doesn't really have any wide receivers, so you're not a Robbie Anderson or Curtis Samuel. You don't believe in those two?
I don't believe that they're competition for him. No, I think that he's going to be the guy. Yeah.
Hey, let us know what you think in the comments. Go ahead and leave a little comment on what, let us know if you're OBJ or DJ Moore on this one. Because in my opinion, this is probably one of the toughest ones, but that's just me.
Yeah.
It sounds like you knew what you're doing right off the bat.
I did, but I put this question at the front of this because I thought it was a good question to start off with.
Yeah.
To give us a good challenge, because it is really about unknowns, right? To some extent, you've got a guy you've got both of them with new offenses. There's a lot of challenge there. There's a lot of good amount of questions. Really, there's an unknown. So
all right, piggyback on that, for our number 2, we have OBJ's teammate. We have Jarvis Landry versus Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
90 seconds on the clock, Kyle. Hit me with your best shot.
All right. Okay, so I like both of these guys a whole lot. I've had Landry on a few teams. I have had Gallup. I think I only had him in a couple spots in the last few years, the last 2 years, right? But Jarvis Landry, I've had since when he was down in Florida, and I've liked him for a very long time. My concerns boil down to the QB there, and just not knowing what that offense is. And for me, this is a much easier question than the last one. I think that Landry has the potential to be the wide receiver 1 for Cleveland, but I do not believe that he will be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Whereas Michael Gallup, I think it is entirely possible that he ends up as the wide receiver 1 on that team, and that he ends up possibly in the territory of top end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 by the end of the year. There's always a guy or two that sneak into that back end wide receiver 1 talk. And people are always a little surprised, that sort of thing. I think that this offense is going to be geared up in such a way that it hides Dak Prescott's deficiencies and makes his reads simpler, his management of the offense simpler. And I think that there's going to be a higher volume of passes available. So I'm going with Michael Gallup here. All right. So same 5 seconds.
I didn't know which way you were going to go on that one. That one.
Yeah. No, I was going Gallup from the start. I like Gallup.
Okay.
I do. I didn't talk myself out of that one. Not like you did in last episode on Chark. All right. So 90 seconds on the clock. We've got Landry.
Real quick. If you want to see me really debate on the fly, going live and going against myself, check out yesterday's episode between TJ Chark and Robert Woods, I believe. I had quite the conundrum in my head as we were talking.
Oh, yeah, 45 seconds in, and I was like, okay, mark that one down as Chark. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait at me.
and then Robert Woods out of nowhere. Yeah. All right, let's throw 90 seconds on the clock, see if we get a Robert Woods out of nowhere when we're talking about.
We may.
I think we just did, actually. That was Robert Woods out of nowhere. He is not in this episode. All right, Landry versus Gallup. What do you got for me? And go.
So you mentioned when it comes to Jarvis Landry, he's a reception hog. Here's the thing. He needs targets and he needs receptions to be fantasy relevant. And you mentioned it as well. There's a lot of mouths to feed with Cleveland. And I just don't think that he is going to get enough of that target share to be the fantasy relevant guy you want him to be compared to Michael Gallup. Yeah. But, Jarvis Landry has always performed in this league. He's one of those ones where I think out of the last 5 years, he's finished as a top 24 or better wide receiver. And it's only been like Julio Jones and like Michael Thomas, you know what I mean? Like the top tier guys. So let's go over to Michael Gallup. And I think he's the best wide receiver on that team.
I agree.
Amari Cooper was banged up last year. Yes, we keep talking about that.
Give it a
Everybody
year.
Keeps talking about that.
Yeah, give it a year and CeeDee Lamb might be the guy.
Yeah. Okay, we talk about CeeDee Lamb. There's mouths to feed there, but guess what? They had the number one most vacated targets this year, coming into this year. So
Yeah.
I think there's still enough of a volume for people to perform in the wide receiver room. And I think Dak Prescott can carry two really good wide receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb's going to do well, but rookie wide receivers just don't perform as well as you want.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with Michael Gallup as well.
All right.
This is pretty tough, though. Pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, I think.
It really is.
Right.
Let us know what you think. If this is the information you're liking, do us a favor. Click that subscribe button. Click the bell so you know whenever we upload this information.
Yeah.
We really like these pick or pass because, once again, this is 90 seconds. This is the decision you have to make when it comes down to it during your draft day. That's the usual 90 seconds is probably about the average when it comes to.
Yeah, some are 2 minutes. Some are 2 minutes.
Some are 2 minutes, but hey, we want to be on the less conservative side, so you know kind of what's going through our heads. And I haven't had the. DJ
I mean, we're not roster building exactly, and a lot of these questions,
right?
You do have to take that into account. Is what does your roster look like? And are you looking for somebody at this point that's more consistent? And I'm just generalizing when I say stuff like, this guy is going to be a wide receiver 2 for me. So then I'm looking for maybe a little more upside, a little more risk I'm willing to take because I've already set in stone my solid pick. Like
absolutely.
Kind of all right, let's go ahead and move on here on to number 3. We've got
number 3.
Yeah, number 3. We've got AJ Brown versus Cooper Kupp. 90 seconds on the clock, Justin. And what do you have for me? Yes, you do.
I did get to go first.
Yeah.
90 seconds go. So
Skippy.
I know this is a tough one for me because I do love me some Cooper Kupp, and I also love AJ Brown.
That's why I threw this in here. I wanted to make.
I
wanted to make you pick against Cooper Kupp. Let's see if we can do it.
Let's see. So sorry, Jared. Yeah, my brother. Sorry. Thank you very much for dropping AJ Brown for me, so I can pick him up for $1 for a fab budget league that we do.
Yeah.
But so AJ Brown, what a year. I mean, he averaged 20.2 yards, per catch or something crazy like that. That's going to come back down to earth a little bit. He only had like 50 some odd receptions last year. That's going to go up. I mean, he didn't really come on until the second half of the season, and he is the number one receiving option in that offense, and there's no question about that. When they do throw, they're going to be targeting him. And we go over to Cooper Kupp. We mentioned Robert Woods so far in this one, and I think Robert Woods is going to be better than Cooper Kupp when it comes to fantasy this year. Cooper Kupp was off the field quite a bit last year when it comes to when they switched to that 12 personnel. I don't think he's going to come off the field as much because Brandon Cooks is no longer there. He's with the Texans. But it's still one of those things where that can't be ignored, that they still believed in Brandon Cooks more than they believed in Cooper Kupp, which beginning of the season, he was on fire, and I'm surprised that they thought that. So with this one, I'm actually going to go with the higher upside pick, in my opinion, and that's A.J. Brown. So,
all right.
And that hurts.
Yeah.
That really hurts me.
We found it. We found the spot where Cooper Kupp is not the guy that you take.
Take a moment right now.
Yeah.
just think about it. Just think about it.
Yeah. All right.
We got 90 seconds on the clock. I'm going to have my moment in solace real quick. And go.
All right. So I like both of these guys sort of. I'm not a huge fan of either of them. Like, they're not top of my list kind of guys, right? So right now they're both going in the range of wide receiver 11 to wide receiver 15, depending on what site you're looking at. I think Fantrax has Brown at wide receiver 11 and Fantasy Football Calculator has Kupp at wide receiver 11, but they fall within that range, roughly 11 to 15. Both of them do. So at that price, I don't know. I'm looking for a little bit more upside at that spot, and so that probably falls to A.J. Brown for me. I think that you're correct. His targets and his receptions are going to go up this year. He had a very modest number of receptions, and I think that you can have or reasonably anticipate him jumping up over 70 or 80 catches because he's going to have a whole lot more targets than he had last year. I think that offense is not going to solely run through Derrick Henry. I think everybody's drafting Derrick Henry like it will, but I think there's going to be more passing game involvement. Durant Evans is going to get some work. But there's just not a whole lot of bodies on that team that are going to catch the ball. And so A.J. Brown's going to profit for that. And look, if he goes from 50 to 70, that's a 40% jump. If you can get 40% more on yardage or even 30% more yardage and a couple more TDs, that's a great year. So A.J.
Even
Brown.
if he comes down a little bit on average yards per catch, I mean, comes down to 16 or something like that. Like you said, you jump up to 20, 30 more receptions. Look out, man.
Yeah.
Once again, thanks, Jared.
Yeah. Go ahead and click that like if you guys are getting value out of this. If you're picking up some info or getting some inside information on how people think during a draft, go ahead and hit that like button. And we'll keep trying to put that information out for you. All right. Go ahead, Justin. Let's lead into number 4.
So number 4, we have Christian Kirk versus Emmanuel Sanders. I'm excited what you're going to say here. 90 seconds on the clock and go meow.
All right. When I was planning this one out, I almost marked one of these guys and chose the other one in the end. So that's how close this question really is in my mind. They're both going between wide receiver 39 and wide receiver 42. I mean, everywhere. These guys are going within 3 spots of one another regularly, like back to back, or like it's pretty close. Both of them are wide receiver 2 on their offense, and both of them are going to see a high volume of targets. One of them is a guy who has a very solid history of getting a lot of targets, catching a lot of them, and just being a volume guy. And that's Emmanuel Sanders, right? He's just a volume hog, just like Jarvis, Landry, and a few other guys in this league that they just seem to draw the targets in and they catch almost everything, right? Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk is on an offense that's going to have a whole lot of targets available just because they're increasing the number of passes that they're throwing. I don't know that there's a whole lot in the way of vacated targets on that offense. I don't really think that there are, but they're going to be throwing from behind too, a lot more. So I'm going with Kirk here. And the real reason I am is because volume hog Emmanuel Sanders is behind volume hog Michael Thomas. And that ain't going to change tomorrow, guys. So it's Kirk for me on this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did I surprise you a little bit?
I didn't know where you're going on that one either. Like you said, you kind of switched right before you wrote down.
Yeah. I mean, but it boils down to Michael Thomas is just going to eat up all the targets. Like look, Jared Cook had 40 targets or catches last year.
Yeah,
that's it. All right. So
90
seconds on the clock. Who do you have, Kirk or Sanders?
So we actually talked about Christian Kirk. He came up in our yesterday's episode, so definitely check that out in the description below. And to piggyback on what I said yesterday is, yes, they're going to throw it a lot. They're going to threaten the Falcons for throwing the most in the league. And he is the wide receiver 2 on that team, I guess. I mean, they finished back-to-back, him and Larry Fitzgerald last year when it comes to the grand scheme of all the points. So it's like, it's still pretty tough out there to say he is the wide receiver 2 because Larry Fitzgerald, the grandfather of all grandfathers, still gets it done at his age. Now let's move over to Emmanuel Sanders.
Ships passing in the night at this point.
Yeah, let's go over to Emmanuel Sanders. The guy gets it done. I like Emmanuel Sanders, and people say, "Oh, the Saints' number 2 wide receiver doesn't perform in fantasy." Well, that's because they haven't had a wide receiver 2 with this caliber. I mean, they've been running
not for a while
out there for the last few years, and I'm sorry, he's still not a real wide receiver in this league. Very limited route tree. That's the opposite of Emmanuel Sanders. That's why he gets so many targets, Kyle, over these last few years, is QBs love him because he gets open and he catches the dang ball. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to happen again. Yes, you talked about Michael Thomas being a target volume, he was getting all of them. That's because Drew Brees had to throw it to him. They didn't have anybody else to throw it to.
Teddy Bridgewater, though, too. It was Teddy, though, too. It wasn't just Drew.
They both only had Michael Thomas to throw to. So I'm actually going to Emmanuel Sanders in this one.
All right.
I don't think it's that close, in my opinion.
Throw
that little bad boy in there. And you know what? Let us know how wrong I am. Throw a comment down there.
Just literally type in very
for it.
wrong.
Go for it. Guy's another
Yeah.
year removed from Achilles injury. Go for it. Tell me how wrong I am.
All right. Number 5, our last one here. We've got Chris Godwin. Yep. Chris Godwin versus Mike Evans. We're going to stay in Tampa Bay and see what you're going to do here. All right. 90 seconds on the clock, and let's go.
This is like a redemption story for inside jokes and everything when it comes to my brother, because he has Chris Godwin as a keeper, and he's really going to like this part of it. So he'll probably skip forward of all the episode and just hit this one, knowing my brother. And I'm just going to say it right now. I'm going Chris Godwin. And, TB12 is the new quarterback in Tampa Bay. And if you and I both know this, Tom Brady likes to throw to the slot wide receivers. And guess where Chris Godwin lives? He lives in the slot. He's talented enough to play on the outside, but I don't think he needs to in this offense. And I don't think Tom Brady wants him to be on the outside. He wants to have that security blanket down the middle and knows a guy that's always going to be open and always going to catch the ball. And that's Chris Godwin. We talked about it yesterday when it comes to Mike Evans. We talked about Mike Evans last episode. His value is on the outside and deep balls. And I'm sorry, Tom Brady, for all the accolades, he is the GOAT. He is the best quarterback of all time, and that really pains me to say as an Indianapolis Colts homer. He's the best, but he just doesn't have the arm strength that he used to, and Jameis Winston has a better arm when it comes to arm strength, not accuracy or everything else on the list. And because of that, I have to go Chris Godwin over Mike Evans, and I think Mike Evans is going to be, I wouldn't say bust, but he's going to be down there in a wide receiver 2 range compared to his wide receiver 6, 7, 8 range that he's going right now.
Yeah.
All right. 90 seconds. I'm off my soapbox here and go.
All right. This one's a tough question, and I'll tell you, when I put this one in there, it was a bit of a trick question to some extent. And they're going between wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 8, usually within 1 or 2 picks of one another. So not as spread out as 5 and 8 even, which is a bit misleading. But the reason that I think that this is a bit of a trick question is because you just have to break down what defense they're seeing for that week. That's what it really boils down to. And, Mike Evans is the guy in that offense with that coach, still the same coach, who is the man coverage beater. And Chris Godwin is the zone coverage beater. And so whatever they see that week coming through as the majority coverage that they have, that's the guy who's going to blow up. That's really what it boils down to. And so it's a really hard question to say one is better than the other unless you have a real feeling about this. And I think that the only feeling you can have is that one is progressing and one is regressing. And so I agree with you. I think that Evans is going backwards. And I think that he's got the wrong QB to hold him up. And I think that Godwin is moving forward. I think he's got a great opportunity here in this offense. And he's still young enough that he can add that man beater repertoire to his abilities. And I don't think that we're going to see anything new out of Evans that we haven't already seen. It's a big guy. All right. That's it for wide receivers on the pick or pass draft, fantasy draft series.
Let us know about the Chris Godwin versus Mike Evans. I'm really curious of what you guys think on that one, because there's still a lot of Mike Evans truthers out there. And I mean, of course there is, because the guy is damn talented. I mean, he really performed with Jameis Winston. So let us know what you guys think. And let's do a recap, Kyle. What do we got?
All right. So as far as OBJ and we split a couple here.
Oh, actually, we did.
Yeah.
We didn't do too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it shows that we're not going to be stealing picks from one another in our fantasy draft this year as much as I thought we would.
Between you and your brother Dan, I swear, we just steal picks from each other, and I think we do it on purpose because we usually are back-to-back picks for some dang reason.
It gets pretty gross, especially in like the middle of the draft. This year, luckily, you're the first in our draft. So, all right. So we've got OBJ and DJ Moore. You like OBJ over DJ Moore. I like DJ Moore over OBJ. We both like Gallup over Landry.
Yep.
We both took A.J. Brown over Cooper Kupp. I took Christian Kirk over Emmanuel Sanders, and you took Sanders.
Yep.
And we both took Godwin over Evans, which is a toss-up. Truly, I have to say it's really a toss-up. I do have to say though that consistently Godwin is going ahead of Evans.
Okay.
In almost everything, but they're so close together in their ADP that I could see it flip-flopping to some extent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just
and it's also kind
preference.
of shiny new toy type of stuff, right? I mean,
well,
and if you truly believe in Mike
that,
Evans, then
he still has that name value.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget they play at Tampa Bay. They don't really get the notoriety or the media viewings, except for now, of course, because #Twami.
Yeah.
And #what? What's the other hashtag we got for him?
Immunity pills.
Immunity pills.
Yep. We all need those right now.
We are.
All right, guys. That's it for this episode.
Zero self-awareness.
We're going to cover QBs and tight ends next episode, and that'll do it for the what is this thing called?
Pick or Pass.
The Pick or Pass Fantasy Draft Series. All right. Once again, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you get notified every time we upload the best fantasy football podcast on the internet. Thank you again for being a fan of the Upside, and we will see you next time.